where holistic health and leadership meets. So thrilled. Thank you for being you and allowing me to go on this journey with you and to join you in your leadership journey where you're doing so in a holistically healthy way. I am definitely speaking that into existence for you right now. And you'll get to experience how this is totally possible for you. So, I would love to welcome you to the perfect playground. The perfect playground is where there's only one rule, and that rule is that you get to play. Yes. What is play? It's going to be standing for the potential and learning about yourself. Yes, your beautiful, glorious, perfect self. Okay. And because it is play, that's just one meaning where it's also an experience. So make sure that you have your playbook handy, that the link has already been posted and shared. We'll put it also in the chat for you in case you didn't see it. And you're going to whip that out because you're going to need that sucker. So you have a little time because we're actually going to do a little bit of a warm up right here, right now. So grab something that's in your space right now, something immediate within around you. Just grab it. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you to imagine and think about the processes that were all involved to get it to you right there in your hand. Okay. I'm going to grab something. Let's grab something because then I'll play with you on this. How about that? So we'll bring in little baby Grogu, baby G, as I call him. Now, when you thought about those processes involved, what did you come up with? You can let me know in the chat, like, what is it that you thought about? Were there any feelings that came up? Were there any memories that came up? Who was it that came to mind? So for myself, what I'll do is I'll say, yeah, sure, here's baby G. He's so adorable, isn't he? But when I think about all of what it took, I mean, it took someone to even create the character, to have that thought for him, right? It took a whole franchise, Star Wars and all of them. It took people. Actually, matter of fact, it's made in Vietnam. So the lovely people in Vietnam that also put the parts and put it together, right? We have all of those associated at Lucasfilm. We have Funko that was also involved in the production and the sales of them, right? You have the voice of him, right? Now, even with those materials, we even can take a look at, what was the essence, the core of even those materials as they came into play, right? Was there some water, so some steam involved, the heat, the fire, all of that? So many people that were even operating the machinery that was driving the trucks, that were flying the planes. So much was involved in creating this little thing that I just smile at all the time. And especially when I just do this. So what we get to see is just that. It took so many people and so many processes for it to all come to you at this present time. And with that, we also attach meaning to it. So this serves as a lovely reminder of it being a gift to me. Somebody knows that I love him and just got it. And I was like, yeah, she's going to love this, small as it is. Okay. What does this also represent? You'll see that it's the same for your whole body self. So just like what it is that you picked up that was around you, you got to explore. And I gave you some examples. I went really deep, right? So for you, you probably may not have even been thinking about that, but now you are thinking about it. Like just how much it is that's involved for a lot of things that's brought to us in our environment. Each piece plays a role to the whole. So that's exactly what it is for you in your whole body self. We get to explore the pieces that all play a role into the whole that is you. So, real briefly, I do want to let you know a little bit about myself as I'm guiding you on this journey as your host and your guide. I'm Denicia Hilton Harper, and I'm a doctor of Eastern medicine and a holistic well-being consultant. Also, the founder of the My Soul Says collection. Um, I just want to see, like, are we pals? These are my values right here, laid right out. And that I do believe in perfection. I do believe that all of us are whole and complete. And I do believe in play. And we can do that, especially when there's some serious healing that ain't got to be so serious. I thoroughly believe in authenticity, whether that's mine, but also bringing that out in other people. I just happen to see a way of doing so when it comes through the lens of the body and what shows up in the form of symptoms and conditions in order to be able to guide people to bring that authentic self out of them. I also believe in liberation. When you're able to do these through perfection, play, and authenticity, you will experience liberation that is beyond what you could ever imagine. When you are able to do and incorporate and express that, then it is a liberation to be who you are, and the liberation and the freedom and the ability to do what it is that you're here to do in your unique way as your unique purpose. And then the spirituality aspects of it, and that I do believe that we are all here. Connected to one another. We're not in silos. Whatever it is that I may do is thoroughly going to impact somebody that's 5,000 miles away. And Baby G was an example of that, right? So, in what ways is it that we're always connected to others and in the collective? And what quality am I going to add to that? So, once again, it's an honor to join you and to guide you in this. And we're going to keep on going. So, what's happening today? We're going to really be taking an exploration of that whole body self. Now, think about this as a surface level. We're going to be just trucking along, right? And I'm going to point out some things. This is where you're going to want to have that playbook handy, or have a notepad handy. And I'm just going to kind of be letting you know about some of those insights that's available to you when it is that you incorporate the physical body and seeing what it is, those insights that come to you in the form of how does this apply to my leadership, right? How does this apply to my holistic health? Where oftentimes in like programs, coaching programs, or we're learning about entrepreneurship and all of that jazz, right? But there's such a focus on the actual business aspect of it. And what I saw is that, wow, I'm really bringing in a lot of these women that actually have their own businesses, some of which are still working in a corporate position and they have their business on the side, others full-time in their business. Either way, they're entrepreneurs. But what it was that I was seeing was that in all of those trainings, uh, the health part is considered an afterthought. And some even open their businesses because of health concerns. And then also, say you're a full time entrepreneur, and then some are like, well, I have this health concern come up. And there's some issues with even access to healthcare. So, what it is that I would like to do and how it is that I bring this in is really because I would love to introduce you to a way that you can start to see your body a little bit differently so that you can kind of get to see what those influences are that's playing a role into what you're experiencing. So then that way, as you can play with that and you can actually begin to explore like what are those root influences, then to me, that's how it is that you can be sustainable. That's how it is that you realize that you do have access to care, right? And it also gives you a little bit more clarity as to, all right, if I got to go out and reach out to somebody, and invite them onto my team, right? You're only usually thinking about the team for the business, but to your health team as well, right? This is what I'm going to need. This is what I'm looking for. So now you have that clarity as you're moving forward in it. Okay. So we're really going to be looking at how it's all tied together, the health and the leadership aspects. They cross right over. There's a little intersection. I usually say that we're going to be playing at that intersection. Okay. So as you see, we have the emotions, we have our environments, which are also internal and external, your attitude, your thoughts, the physical body, the beliefs, the spirituality, or your values, feelings, all of those come together, right? And then they get packaged up to be you. Yes, indeed, you. And then what you realize is leadership is you. Okay. So if we can, at this moment, we're going to really get into this even more so. So please allow me to introduce you to you. So how we're going to do that? Whip out your handy dandy playbook, and we're going to take a few minutes. You're going to go through each of those sections. All you're simply doing is reading the statement. If you think it applies to you, just check it off. Okay. Don't overthink it. And this is why we're not going to spend that much time on that, because literally, if it jives with you, it jives with you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So just kind of like feel it in your spirit. It's like, I read that statement. Yes, this is me. Check. There's no judgment here. It is what it is. Okay. The more honest you are with yourself, then the better it's going to be when it comes to actually being able to take in the rest of the info that I'm going to give you. So you want to just go with the gut, answer it, and check it. And then for each section, you're going to write that total number that you got. Okay. So I will sit here, allow you to do that for a couple of minutes as you go through it. Once again, don't overthink. It's just whatever pops up. Just checking in with you. You got a little bit longer than a minute left. There are 5 sections there. So just like I said, just read through them. If it automatically clicks, it clicks, and then just move right on. Just a few more seconds, about 20 seconds, and then we're going to go ahead and review what you found. All right. Awesome sauce. So if you're working on it, that's fine. We're going to just keep going though. Everything will be good. You'll see that there are actually some areas there for you to take notes as well. Okay. All right. So we're actually going to review the first, excuse me. We're actually going to review it now, right? And so we're going to whip out our Viewmasters. Yes, I took it way back, old school, if you know what these are. So if you don't know what these are, it was this really cool toy where you got to actually like put those little slide, I don't even know what they want to call them, but like little slides with like pictures on them and stuff like that. And then you put it into the or to the red thingy, the viewfinder. And then like you could like put it up like binoculars, but you got to see the pictures. Then you press a little orange lever and it was like, and then it switched because you see it's all in circles. And so we're actually gonna whip out our Viewmaster. And each of those circle discs, it's going to be for each of the elements as we explore them. Okay. So actually, what I would like to do is for you to look at when you total up, you're going to actually look and see, okay, which ones, how do your numbers lie, right? Like, so do you want to go ahead and rank them? You can if you would like to. As you rank them from the most checks and then to the least, then you can do that section by section, right? So on the sections, I'm actually going to let you know which ones you're going to write in. So for section 1, you're going to write in that one is metal. For section 2, we're going to write in earth. For section 3, we're going to write in fire. For section 4, we're going to write in wood. For section 5, we're going to write in water. Okay. So these are like not necessarily in any particular order for you, but you're just writing those down. So then that way, as I go through each of them, you have your space, you'll realize to be able to write the notes for each of them. Okay. So we're going to actually move right on in, and there's space at the top for you to write your rankings in if you would like to do so. So whipping out our Viewmaster, let's go. So let's start with fire. As I'm talking, you're going to hear me speaking between self and career, right? We're also looking at it from the state of what's under demonstrating and what's over demonstrating. And then also, what are some ideas of support? So then that way there is this harmony that is within each of the elements. Okay. So when you hear me saying like over and under demonstrating, what it is I'd like you to see that this element is a part of you, right? It's an archetype. We're looking at all of these as archetypes. So what that means is there's like a set of characteristics that all they come together and it's like, that one's very much so a little bit more like this element style. And this one's a little bit more like that element style. Okay. No element is better than the other. And we'll actually see why later on. But for right now, what we're doing is we're seeking. So remember just how there were the pieces that make up the whole. Within each of the pieces, we're actually now going to even see that there's pieces within those pieces. Okay. And so when I say seeking harmony, or if it's under or over demonstrating, then that's what it is that I'm looking at is what's this healthy expression of this particular element. And so we are looking at that. What's this healthy expression of the fire? And what does that look like? And when it's not healthily being expressed, what does that look like? Because those are going to be your keys. That's the info that you're looking for. That's when you're like, oh, snap. this isn't exactly expressing the way that it's supposed to be expressing, and so it's acting out, right? So sometimes let's think about that as like when it comes to kids, right? Like that you could sit there and be like, oh Lord Jesus, they acting out. When really what it is they have something that they're trying to share. They just don't know how to share it and communicate it. So they're doing it in the best way that they know how. So we get to see that happening when it comes to the elements. Okay. So with the fire, here we go. We're going to jam right on in. I'm going to spend a few minutes with each one so that you can write your notes out and all of that jazz. And then also, I do want to say this, just be in a place that whatever comes to you and sticks out to you for you to write your notes, that's what it is for you. Okay. So try not to be so hard on yourself if you don't get everything. These are going to be made available for you afterwards anyway. So just honor that whatever is going to come to you is coming to you as it is right now. And that's just it. Okay. So with fire, we're looking at this. We're thinking about literally fire in and of itself. When you see it burning, it can burn and be so bright, right? It can be so mesmerizing. It even has a little bit of a dance on its own, right? That's the charm that you're seeing from it. That is like the heat. It can ignite. It's an activator. We see this in a way that it is inspiration can really come through fire. The creativity can come through fire. Fire is fast moving. So then even then with it, when this archetype is really playing out, they can be very much so a little bit, I want to say a little bit more extroverted. And I say that a little bit hesitantly because there are introverts that, those who identify as being introverted, that this archetype can be predominant for them. Okay. Myself included. And what it is that you can actually almost in a way like connect with other people. Um, there is this like, there's an ability to take things, be inspired, to actually encourage and get other people to get moving, right? But you're doing it in a way that's like through the personable side, right? It's a little bit different than the wood, and getting people activated and moving. When this is out of whack, when the fire is not really healthily being expressed, just like natural fire, it will burn out. Okay. So these people tend to be a little bit fast moving. Okay. It's like, oh, they have an idea. They're going to move. They're going to do this and do that. They're the ones that even ideas kind of like jump from this to that, to this to that, and everything else. Right. And the thing is actually when you're in that in a healthy state, it's beneficial. And it's totally okay to be jumping from idea to idea or thought to thought. It's a part of your processing. When it's too much in the under over demonstrating part, that's where it is that you'll see things like insomnia. You'll feel this extra burnout. It's because you just went a little bit too far, right? And it's all in learning. It's all in a feed forward loop. Okay. Usually you hear it as a feedback loop. I like to look at it as a feed forward loop. You're just gathering information. And as you do it, as you be in this, you learn more, you evolve, and then you continue. Right. So what it is the burnout. You'll start to feel like it'll happen. But then as you evolve and start to learn what your cues are, then you're actually going to realize like, oh, now the burning out is kind of like it's spread out, right? Sometimes the burnout and in this place, people talk about it as if it's such a negative thing, but actually, I see it as like, oh, you were that into what you were doing, right? That it was like blinders on, I'm going for it. And that's boom, that's it. And it's like, whoa, you're really into it. And that is your jam. And that's cool. Because the thing is if you can see where it is that your passion is and you're just like going for it. So there's a subtle difference here. If you're very passionate about it, and the projects, and it could be anything like for the self, or it could be within business, and you are just going full speed ahead, right? Like the thing is, and this is where it hits in the under and over demonstrating, is that sometimes in that haste of moving so quickly, there are smaller details and things that you might miss. Okay. And so it's where it is that you might want to invite someone else in to take a look at things. They might see some things that you aren't seeing. This is where you want to add those type of people on your team. You're going to see this later on, who I'm talking about. That's going to be able to look at those. They can take your idea. So some people with this predominating archetype tend to see, or they say like, they're like, I just can't get things done. And the thing is when this is so predominating for you, it is going to be challenging to get it done. Because why? Your natural state and being is in the ideation. It is in the envisioning. It is in the visualization. You see it from the whole. And you're like, oh, this would be awesome. That is your position. Okay. So when you're also thinking like, who do I hire? Who do I bring on? Right. And even in my own holistic health team, like, who do I need? Right. Like, that's where it is. You can see nothing is wrong with you in the completion of things. Once again, you're not a silo. You're not by yourself. So, that's your strength, is being able to see things from that perspective. So that's how it is. You can add that support. Start realizing what your rhythms are. If you're in a state of go, 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 which can happen, and there are influences that impact that. So it's not just about the archetype, but there's other influences such as the moon, where you're at in your menstrual cycle, and some other things as well. So that's other things that I teach. But like, it's even those influences that'll play a role. And so it's realizing like, oh, I'm like this right now. And then when you start to feel the slowing down, don't feel guilty that you're slowing down. Allow the slowing down to happen, because it will, just like a fire, it'll get really, really bright and then burn, burn, burn high. And then it'll just kind of come down until some more kindling is on there, right? And then it'll go up again. So it's meant to do that. So you don't have to always be thinking that it has to be go, go, go. And then also what that passion might look like comes in different shapes. So be aware of that. The passion, the charming, the speaking with other people, the coming up with ideas, it may take different forms. So at some time you might be more willing to be like actually in a group, networking with people, meeting people. But then there's other times that this is going to show up where it's just you by yourself, and you whip out your notebook and you're just jamming out ideas, right? And so you can see that it will play in different ways. And so you want to just take a look at that. This type also might have several different types of interests. So your hobbies and whatnot can change. The way that you physically move for exercise can change. So allow that change to happen. Okay. Be aware of longer term commitments. This type may not like actually be able to commit to longer term things. So even if there's programs and they're like, it's a year long, if you feel an inkling of a cringe, that means that you really may need something that's a shorter time period. When you're developing your own services and offerings, see where it is that as a time period that you can accommodate more easily to you. Right? It's perfectly okay to do something that's 4 weeks, just as much as it's perfectly okay for someone to offer something for a year. The idea here is that you're going to be listening to the body. And like I said, it's some insomnia issues. It might be some dryness. You're going to have sometimes as well that it's going to be like you can hear it in a way that you're speaking. So sometimes it's even speaking too quickly, and people can't keep up with you and whatnot. That can actually be a little bit of an over demonstration of this. But then also it's paying attention to caffeine. If it's really, really getting to you, then you might want to start a process to wean it down. Okay. Because that could be over drying. And so there's a type of dryness, type of constipation that can be with this. Urination patterns will be drier, meaning not as frequently, but then also darker. Okay. There could be a lot of heat that's happening and coming on. The heat rises, so it'll affect things that come in the upper body. So moving right along, we're going to move on into Earth. The earthy people. And with this archetype, right? When you think about Earth, you're thinking about natural Earth when it's in its harmonious state. Earth is such a provider, right? Such a nurturer, and willing and always like taking care of others. And you see this happening with this archetype. These are the people that are going to want to take care of other people. You can see that it happens with the family. They're over doting. They're doing all of this. That I'm going to plan this. Let me do that. We have the holidays. Everybody come over. You know, when it comes into business and the way that you're showing up there, it's, oh, I'm just going to love on my clients. I'm going to love on the patients, and I'm going to create all of these because I just want to take care of everybody, right? They're volunteering a lot because they want to like really show that they care, right? And the thing is, they're doing it in a physical way. They may not be the ones that are actually like saying things, but you'll see them kind of like be out there and like bringing things together. The thing is that when that happens in a way that it's not harmonious anymore, it becomes an under or over demonstration, then that's when it is that you're going to start to see patterns popping up, such as like the weight might pop up. There's a type of depression that may show up with this type because they're doing so much for other people. But then there's a certain type of anxiety that pops up for this type because they're constantly worrying about other people. The thing is that the digestion may slow down because there's so much that they're trying to digest from the outside going in, because they're trying to see, well, what can I do for this, that it impacts the digestion physically. So it's digesting information, but then also digesting physically that they're going to be competing. And I guess to the point that the body's like, I'm not going to really do either one of those, right? Like, and they just kind of slow down. So with them, then this is where it is that they might need others on their side that's gonna like be the one that says, hey, did you eat? Hey, can you go ahead and take a break? Also, these are the ones that's going to be totally awesome at having that. Those are some characteristics of like a VA, maybe that they invite in, right? Or a nanny or a housekeeper, because they're so busy doing that, like they may not do this stuff for themselves. So you want to just have those things in mind when it comes to eating. You want to avoid some of the like fried foods and dairy, especially because those kind of add on to the slowing of the digestion. So you might want to mix in a little bit of some spice of like some ginger, some cinnamon, right, into your food as you're cooking. Try to go a little bit more with the vegetables, and try a variety of colors when it comes to the vegetables. Moving on, we got our metal. So with the metal, we think about literally metal. It is just there, right? It's there. Doesn't bend unless you apply a lot of heat and pressure, right? And that's exactly how it is that this archetype shows up. They are very, very so much into like, this is the order of things. This is the way it's supposed to go. We got to do A, then B, then C, then D. They can be somewhat inflexible when it comes to how it is they see things. And the thing is that when that can happen, they might limit themselves. Okay. So this is where it is, the type of support is actually having around you other people that might see things from a different perspective. And it's on you to at least be open to seeing it from that perspective, because perhaps whatever process and system that you can come up with, it might even be better. Right. This is also where this type can be so much into their own system that they tend to like miss some other things, like include, so it's like you want to include why it is that other people might want it. But this type is so great, like I mentioned earlier, like a fiery type might want to have a metal type predominant person, because they're the ones that's going to be able to help complete the things that you have the ideas for, and they're just going to put those structures together. Oh, actually, let me go back and say, for support, it's really looking at ways that you can invite flexibility. And that might be in the physical form of flexibility. So yoga and Pilates, stretching, trying something different. Like these people tend to be very routinized. So like maybe one day a week, you're like, I'm going to actually just go and try this. And you just break out of that routine and you invite something new in, and you might actually see that you enjoy it, right? So these people are also prone to constipation. That's more related to just being so rigid. It's very difficult to let things go. So if things actually are changing, and they might be changing a lot, it's okay. So this is where you might want to think about like a breathwork type of ritual that allows and welcomes change, positions you in a way that it allows change to happen. Okay. And offering grace to yourself and to others as to that change. Okay. As we switch it on over, we're going to move into water. And with water, oh, when you think about water, it just free flows, right? You can really look into it and you can see the depths of it, depths in these ponds and the lakes and in the rivers. This is that type of archetype. They're almost in a way like introverted to introverted, right? Like they can really be to themselves. They're so introspective. And at the same time, they're the ones that can really see things from such a depth that, say, someone who's on the fiery side may not see. So fire is really seeing it from above and water is really seeing it from like within, right? This type, you'd want to explore this. They can move a little bit slower. And moving slower is fine. But the thing is on that over under demonstration side of it, this is where it is that you do want to take some time and just see, ooh, am I too slow? Where it can come in the form of depression. They can close off and be so inward that it can show up as that type of depression. So this is where it is you want to have those people on the outside that can see that happening, say, hey, what you doing? Let's go to the cafe or something like that. And then it's on you to kind of be aware that that's what they're picking up on. And then they just want to check on you. They just want to bring that out of you. But when it comes to the team, you need that. You need someone who's going to take something and really introspect on it, see how it really works, and then go from there. Switching it up, we got our wood. So with the wood, this energy, you think about trees, okay? The tree and the weeds, they're going to grow wherever they want to grow. They break concrete and all of that. And this type of person is that take charge type of person. So the difference between this one and the fire type when it comes to moving people is that this one's going to be a little bit more forceful. So the thing is when it's too much, then it's going to be pushing people away. So with wood, it's finding that harmony of, all right, I know that I can activate movement, but I'm going to do it in a way that does not necessarily push people out of the way or make them afraid of me. But this is also the one that could be so take charge and so go, go, go that they have to learn when to retreat. So just like how you'll see some flowers and some trees, they retreat in and then they'll come out. That's the practice, that's the art. And so these people, when they're out of harmony, they're going to get headaches, and the headaches tend to be at the top of the head. They might get bright red eyes also. They might be stiff. Okay. When they want to move, but they can't move. And then people are just like, they just feel so frustrated. This is the wood that's coming out. The wood wants to move. So these people may be the types to over exercise, and it's literally because they're trying to get the movement. So while you're physically moving, see where it is that you can be mentally and emotionally moving, because you might be stagnating yourself on that. Okay. So you get to see that it's all about the relationship. So as we come into a close, you're going to see here that we look at them, the five elements, fire, earth, metal, water, and wood, in this way. But then also, switching it up, we look at it this way, where earth is in the middle and it supplies nourishment to those that are around. Then we could switch it up again, and you'll actually get to see when it comes to leadership. Leadership, my favorite definition is to put one first. So therefore, it's you that's in the middle of all of this. All right. And so you'll get to see, and as you heard me talking about it, when they're not harmonized, working together, this is when we see things popping up, such as hormone disharmonies, digestive issues, sleep irregularities, low energy, fatigue, anxiety, depression, anger, body pain. But what do they all have in common? It's that the holistic health disharmony is strongly associated with not being in environments to express your authentic self. So with all of that, what can you do to harmonize? Intentionally design environments that's internal and external. If it's herbs, if it's supplements, if it's food, if it's meditation, if it's Pilates, whatever it might be, right? If it's a different type of office space, Is it virtual space? Is it physical space? Different car, home, whatever it is for the environment, is make sure that it's conducive to bringing out those strengths, and especially with people, that they're also a part of your environment, to create sustainable energy and holistic health. So, being more specific with 3 steps. 1, offer yourself grace. This is all a journey, okay? Your healing is a journey, it's not a destination. So, offer yourself grace along the way. All right. 2, implement some of the support tips from today that I talked about. And you can start with whichever one you feel you want to start with, or you can just start with the one that had the highest ranking, because that's the most predominating right now. 3, putting it all together. You are so welcome to go deeper with what your body is telling you about your authentic self, match game, and mini course. The details for that are in your playbook. So you can hop right in there. It's just this free match game and mini course. I had some fun putting that together for you to go a little bit deeper. So I would love to say welcome again, but this time, welcome to your elemental leadership, where you can proudly declare, I am whole, I am complete, I am perfect. Thank you all again for letting me join you. I'm Denicia Hilton Harper. Feel free to connect with me here on LinkedIn, and here's my email. Perfect healing blessings, y'all.
Denicia!
Hey,
Hi, how are you?
good, chilling.
Really? That was so good. So good. You have hands raised, you have Q&A stuff, so I'm not going to hold folks. I'm going to let them fire away, okay?
Okay.
All right, I'm going to hand the mic first to Andrea. Andrea, the stage is yours.
Hi. First of all, I know everybody says this, but your voice is so calming. I could listen to you talk about nothing, and it just is like, it's so nice. It's so nice. So it's beautiful. And I love that you share with that voice how to be in touch with your innermost self and how to be able to shine through that. So leadership in this holistic thing. So I was in the military, served in pretty high leadership positions, but no one ever said that it was at a cost of my holistic self. And so after years and years and years and years of doing what the mediocre white man has told me I needed to do in order to chase the crystal shining ball to get promoted and this and this and that, on the outside in the civilian world with real, regular, normal thinking people, it doesn't work that way, right? So not only having to reclaim what leadership looks like for me, and then how I want to do that for everyone else that I end up leading, your because this isn't the first blaze that you've done, right? And you've had a couple of sessions within this one. Yeah. And it's just been like, it's transformed my thought process on leadership. And I thought I knew a lot. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I love the fact that you just showed up in your bed chilling. I love it. Be you, sis. Love being all of it. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
And thank you for your service too, Andrea, as well.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And I
Andrea.
do want to say too, like, pointing out what Andrea said, like, what I heard too was context of environment. So, like with military, it's looking at literally environment. Like there's a microcosm, but then there's a macrocosm, right? So like what in that environment is going to be praised and what is going to be pushed upon in order for I mean, you are directing like so many people.
Absolutely.
And there's like hardly any room for error. It's going to be very metal like, and even like in Chinese astrology, like that's it. Like we think about metal and wood, like when it comes to war and things like that. And it serves a purpose. It serves a meaning, like to the collective, right? And for the whole functioning of it. But then at the same time, yeah, I do see if that's what's going to be praised, that's how you get the promotions and all that jazz. Like there's no way, like,
you know, you can take a medication, you got shot, you can do this, and then like for all the other health things, and then that, you know, that's a way that I can see though that people do that, like even outside of the military. Like the stories that I would hear from other women, especially Black women, like, and I heard it throughout all week, you know, like, oh, I have to do this in order for me to get to this position, or to try to like get this promotion, or to negotiate or be at the table for whatever. And like, it's in that creating of the mask in order for you to like, it's almost like this is how I can advance. And like what I wanted to show was you can still advance and actually be more sustainable and in a more holistically healthy way if you can identify what's your natural being in states. And then that way, what environment is going to be conducive to that? And so does that mean that you can change the environment from within a company or even in your own business? Yes. Some may have it more difficulty than doing that than others. And if that's the case, then that's when the invitation to join a different organization may come, you know? And so I kind of like look at it as a blending in that way, you know?
That was so good. Thank you. Yes, being in the military is a whole different world, right? Like the expectations, and like you were saying, you're very direct. No one, you take the shot, take the pill, drink water, drive on, suck up the suck, right? Like there is no femininity in the mask. And yeah, having to not only growing up with parents who were in the military, so that's part of the childhood piece of it too, right? And then thinking that you can go in the military and do this and do that. And it's just, there's layers upon layers of letting go of who I had to be in order to survive and move up in the way that, you know, you're told, go to college, get a job, retire, The military has that same type of mindset. And that's just not the way the world works in a loving, compassionate, giving to people, and receiving from people, right? The military just isn't that. That's not what the mission is. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Andrea. So good. And we have, okay, some of these I'm gonna show twice at once. Okay, let me just do that now. So this shows up a couple of times. All right. So one person, China says, I had the same score in 3 categories. LOL. Am I well balanced or all over the place? And I'm going to show that Winnie experienced the same thing. She says, is it common to have 3 really high scores in areas that seem different from each other?
Okay, so actually, like I'm glad that came up too, so I can verbally do it because I was typing to Winnie in the chat about that. So one context, like this is meant short time frame, so this number of statements is very short. Like in the perfect authentic leadership thing, that's a lot longer. Like there's more statements that can help fine tune and tweak it a little bit more. And that, so that's like functional logistics. Now, even if you were to take the more elaborate one, and that came up, that's when I start asking and seeing where about like what's going on in your life that it's almost like you're calling on the archetypes of several of them to come in and predominate at the same time. So these are situations where, say for instance, like you naturally may want to be more into that earthy archetype, like that's your strong suit, right? But because of situations going on right now, you're having to take lead and be more in charge. You're having to of the wood type of archetype, and then like, oh, I got to go through all of these details, analysis, put together systems and all this stuff, metal, right? Like, and so you're calling on all of the characteristics of these other archetypes to use as of right now. So like this is why I look at it this way. Like all of them are present within all of us, even if for some they said they had 0 and some for some of them. I'm very curious if there was like the elaborate one, if any of them came up. But like, because each of these are present within us. And it's like, it's that time when I think of the women who are like, all of a sudden, they're just going, I don't even know who I am. And this might be in situations within companies or even within families or relationships, especially if they're like, I just became this mom. And then 17, 18 years later, they're like, I don't know what to do with myself because they don't know who they are. Or that also comes up around perimenopause, going into menopause, because that's a huge transition for many women. So like that type of thinking will come up. And so that's where it is that I see that we called on these archetypes to get through a situation that we're going through right now. However, sometimes we might be in that situation so long that it almost kind of start like in The Mask, like the movie The Mask, when he was trying to take it off and you saw it like sticking to him and all of that stuff. It's almost like it kind of melded into you, but it's not really your natural state. And so if there's a way that you can kind of look at the current situation, current landscape, what is the stuff that actually comes really, really easy to me? What is the stuff that I actually really enjoy doing? What are the things that I'm procrastinating on? Because sometimes the things that you're procrastinating on are oftentimes the things that you might need support in, meaning like you can delegate it, or if you're shooting yourself on it, like, does it really mean that you actually need to have it done? So then like you can start to explore, why do I feel like that has to be done anyway? Because it may be a delegate or maybe a delete. And so that's a way to begin to like take the environment, explore it, and then be able to step into more of which of the archetypes is going to be more predominating for you, while getting the support from the other ones, so that you can see that all of 3, 4 of them don't have to be happening all at the same time. And then physically, that's when you start getting many of them get like really confusing symptoms. Like it might be headaches sometimes, and then depression some other times, and then like, oh, I have no appetite, or oh, I'm binge eating, or oh, my hormones are all over the place. So physically, it looks like you're all over the place as well. So it's like mirroring what's actually happening on the outside.
Thank you so much, Denicia. And that makes sense actually, because that caused me to reflect on why I'm so heavy on wood and metal. But it's a state in my life, and I'm sure if I was in a state of like less warrior needs and more zen, I probably would have a lot of my social balance, like empathetic, whatever come up. That actually makes a lot of sense. Okay, so this question is from Alexis. And she says, I always love your workshops. How do you conceptualize your games and playbooks for these very complex topics? It's a good one.
Oh man, this came up last time, Casey. You remember? Somebody asked me that, and I was like, I never really thought about that. Like,
that time,
yeah, like, okay, so typically, okay, so this is usually a process, at least this is what I see that I do, is I start with like, what's my overall mind? Like, what's my overall mind point? Like, I want to get them from thinking this to thinking this way. And then, okay, well, if they do that, then how would they really feel about it? And so then now I'm getting in the mental emotional part of it. And then next thing I'm going to ask is like, okay, so if I were to infuse this with play, if I were to see this imagery, or if I was to watch a movie and learn this, then like, what would that look like? Like, what is something that's already out there that actually carries the same message? And then I use that to actually be the one that's going to like carry it for me. So like, I'll go ahead and I'll present that first. For those that are like putting together courses and things like that, you saw it, you experienced it, that like I went with an activity first and then I integrate it, and that's intentional. So then that way it's like, it's dealing with the brain. If I were to present something up front, your brain's automatically going to tell you reasons why it's not going to work and why you can't do it. And that's because it's already built on habit. It's like it's trying to create habit so it doesn't have to do it. So like, it's totally fine. It's doing its job. So what I'm doing though is I'm asking you to experience things first. And then that way you get into it and then embodied in it and experience it, come to your own conclusions. And then I will further integrate it, adding in what the intention of the whole transformation of the workshop is into that point, like point by point. So that's typically what I'll do. Like I'll kind of like do it like that. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes literally I've pulled in puzzles. Like we sat and did digital puzzles for things, and then that taught like this whole broader lesson. And they were like, wait, what? Like not even realizing that they were doing it. So there's a lot of things that are out there that can actually carry the visual and carry the action part of it for you. It's just thinking about what would that look like to convey it.
Ashe. All right, y'all. We're at the end, and this is about to be the last session right after this before the summit wraps. Okay, we're wrapping with the Blaze Business Awards. Denicia, I'm gonna say it one more time. I'm gonna say it again. I don't know when this Alexa app is coming out, but your voice is giving. It always gives.
Expect this email being like, Casey, what do you mean by this? Explain that to me.
Listen. So how can we follow your journey for all that's coming, Denicia?
Oh my gosh. So I would say I'm going to do better about email. So I'm committing to like actually emailing. And so if you get on the list, and then also like LinkedIn and Instagram are going to be my predominating two, I believe, or maybe YouTube. So like, I would say just get on the email, and then that way I'll just like direct you and be like, hey, check me out over here.
Dope. All right, y'all, keep it locked with my favorite sciences. Okay, so much is coming. Her freebie is available. You can click it in the reception where it says download speaker freebies, or you can go to the app, and this inside of the app under the Blaze Virtual Summit section. But either way, she is a brilliant mind to follow. Thank you so much for pouring into us so playfully in our summits.
Thank you so much. It was good seeing you, of course, as always. And everybody else, thank you.
Thanks, y'all. All right, y'all. So last session. As promised, we are giving a lot of, thank you so much, Auntie Yvonne, for dropping the freebies link. We are giving a lot of money talks, right? At least one every day. And so we're ending the session intentionally with a panel, a finance panel called Beating the Recession, right on the nose. No metaphors, no parables, like straight up panel discussion on beating the recession from 3 Black women in finance. Not accounting, no, not going accounting, right? At all, right? But accounting is counting, right? Whereas finance is looking at your money and knowing how to grow it, okay? So that is the last session of the summit. Meet us over there. And then after that, we're getting straight into the Blaze Business Awards for 2023. So much fun. See y'all on the other side. Rounding and speaking directly to this recession that we're navigating through right now. And I've brought the experts in the house today. You have seen each of them individually talking about all things finance and really owning and controlling your financial destiny. But now we're going to actually talk as a collective, right? In a very I will say slow-paced, real, methodical conversation about how every single one of us experiencing this right now can do something, right? About this recession, the next one, 3 more to come, right? So definitely have your pens and notepads out. Definitely drop your feelings in the chat. It matters, right? We will affirm you because it takes a lot of energy to dig into finance, okay? But to start off, I think it's very important that both of these experts really unpack their own experiences and how their journeys navigated them to finance. And so, ladies, I want to kick it over to you to start. Please share how you found yourself in finance and then what you do today in that realm. Racine, we'll start with you.
Wow, well, I am Racine, and I've been called the financial money wealth transition magician. Okay. And you know, and I really enjoy finance, and I try to keep it simple because I started out my first career as an accountant working for Harvard of the South here in Atlanta. And I realized I had more month than money. And most people think accountants know everything about money. We know how to count the beans, but we don't know how to make them grow. Okay. And starting my first career out of college, I realized that, hey, nobody really even prepared me, for getting my first, salary. Here I am, the most money I've ever spent, received in my life outside of allowances from parents, and you go to HR, they don't teach you how to fill out withholdings for taxes, and they don't figure out how to explain the 401k plan to you unless you ask. So all of those things, here I am, 22, 23 years old, and I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. And so I started using up a whole bunch of credit cards. Long story short, I asked my sister, hey, who do you know? And she had basically said, hey, here's somebody you can sit down with. I went to them that same day, and they were like, hey, you have a knack for understanding. It didn't take you long, which it doesn't take a PhD to understand some concepts. And they said, hey, you would be a great asset as, financial services and a financial plan. And I was like, really? And they said, you have a great skill set, et cetera. So I figured, hey, if I can help myself, I can help others along the way. So that was 1996. Fast forward, so transitioned, tax planning as well as doing the financial services and consulting. So, it's been a great ride, and I'm loving it. I'm in the heart of one of the, greatest counties, in Atlanta for affluent African Americans, and so I enjoy it because now I'm doing great things in my community. So then, that's how I kind of got the real footing of, financial services.
Love that, Racine. And I always love how honest and grounded you are, right? Like you talked about how community had to bridge you too, right? To the first person that could help you out. Thank you so much for that transparency.
Yeah.
Felicia, I'm going to kick it over to you. Please share with us your path to finance and what you do in that vein today.
So it's funny, me and Racine have got some overlap in how she got started and how I got started. So this for me became important when I was 27. I was working in the estate planning department of a law firm, preparing 706s, which is the document that you file when somebody has passed. And part of our process was to basically take a picture of anything we were reporting to the IRS. And so one day, a picture of a red Mercedes convertible soft top 450 SL came across my desk. And I'm talking to the husband because the wife has passed. And I said, that's my dream car. And really, that was the beginning and the end of the conversation for me. And then what happened is 8 months later, he reaches back out to me out of the blue. And he says to me, Felicia, I'd like to give you the opportunity to buy your dream car. Now, I've completely forgotten about this dream car because, it was just a passing conversation. And I go, what dream car? He goes, my wife's Mercedes. I'm going to offer it to you for $7,000. Now, folks, this was a $40,000 car that he was offering me for $7,000. And I paused and I said, well, let me think about it and give you a phone call back the next day. And I have to tell you, Racine and Casey, I was not in a position, and I knew I wasn't in a position to buy that car. I didn't have any savings. I had charged up my credit cards all the way up. And there was nothing I could do about it. So I had to call him the next day. And I had to say, look, I can't buy that Mercedes. So there was a pause in the conversation. And he says, do you mind if I ask why? And I said, I'm really embarrassed to tell you, but I don't have the resources to do it. I don't have the credit to do it. I don't have the savings to do it. I can't buy this car. I'd actually have to live in the car if I bought the car, and he was just like, and so there was another pause in the conversation. And then what he said to me is, and this is the thing that really made the big difference for me, he said to me is, do you mind if I say something to you? And I said, sure. And he goes, every single day, Felicia, you work with millionaire people like myself. And if you want to get to where I am, you've got to do what we are doing. You've got to save, you got to pay off your credit card, you got to be positioned for these types of opportunities because you never know when they're going to happen. And so I took that advice to heart, and what it's done for me is I had to slowly get myself out of the hole that I had dug for myself, and that I see that many of the women that I work with have gone through, and turn things around so that I have the opportunity. So now who I am is I'm Felicia Gopal, and I am part of a team that manages over $100 million in assets. I am a podcast host. I've written 2 Amazon best-selling books. I used to be the financial advisor for the city of Philadelphia, which has $500 million in assets and 25,000 employees. And really the thing that I say, and the thing that really lights me up, is I say that I'm a catalyst for women, families, and small business owners to help them get peace of mind so that they can go out and live the life of their dreams.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing.
Amazing.
That is truly amazing.
Amazing.
Go Felicia.
Well, I mean, the thing that's cool about this topic is, as you said, Casey, it's not one that you see a lot of us. So it's not unusual for Racine and I to be the only ones in the room, or one of a couple of us in the room.
Right.
So I love the fact that you put together this panel and we can talk about the stuff that lights us up.
Yeah. And I love how for both of your intros, I'm sure everybody can see a piece of themselves in your stories, right? Like those times where we learn that when you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, right? Those times where we thank God somebody minded our business and, crossed the line to tell us about ourselves. So thank you both for your transparency. I thoroughly enjoyed that. That actually gathered me quite a bit, just listening to how you got to where you are. And I just want to dive straight in because there's so much to unpack, right, as it relates to finance. And you ladies have immense knowledge. And I want to start with, talking about how important it is to not put all of our eggs in one basket, right? Because once you hit a recession, right, and you're trying to pull on resources, you're trying to figure out what to do. If everything you have is in one particular vein, and that vein is being destroyed, then what, right? So I want to start with you, Felicia. How do we go about making sure that our financial portfolios are recession-proof in the first place?
Well, I want to talk about a concept called diversification, which is the idea that you don't have all of your eggs in one basket. So, but first, let me define what diversification is. Diversification is really a strategy to minimize the overall risk that you have in your portfolio by mixing different assets in your portfolio, thereby reducing the overall exposure to a single asset. So that's kind of the textbook definition. But what I would say to you is, in general, what happens with a lot of people when I sit down, and probably when Racine sits down with them, is they've got lots of different stocks. And so maybe they've got 50 stocks, maybe they've got 100 stocks, maybe they got 500 stocks. It doesn't matter how many stocks they own, and they think that that is diversification. But the thing that I have found is they may have all the stocks that represent the same portion of the market. So if the market and that particular category is going up or down, so when it's rising, they're all excited about it. But when it's following, that, they're getting all stressed about that. So that's one thing that you want to do. So you want to definitely own the entire market. So it's broader than just owning an index. You really want to own the entire market. And what I mean by that is you want to own everything that is represented in the market. So the US economy, or the US market, is over 24,000 different stocks. And it would be challenging for a lot of people to buy 24,000 different stocks and be able to represent the US market. So what you would have to do is buy a structured fund that has all of those things in it. So that's one element that you want to have in a proper diversification. The other element you want to have in terms of diversification is you want to have different asset classes in your portfolio. So what that means is you have different segments of the market that would be an asset class, like small caps, value, all that sort of stuff. And there's 21 different asset classes that you would want to have in your portfolio for proper diversification. And you want to make sure that they are dissimilar. So when one goes up, the other one goes down. And if you have those two elements, that's the start of proper diversification. You also want to be globally diversified. Having not having all of your eggs in the US market, because there's a lot of economies outside of the United States market. So those are some of the elements that I talk about in terms of diversification. And when you are putting together a portfolio that's recession proof, you've got to include all of those sorts of things in your portfolios.
So good. Thank you so much, Felicia. And for those who don't, or for the first time hearing this financial lingo, do not be intimidated. Do not be intimidated. Write it down, Google it, right? But what Felicia's talking about is practical to you and I. When Walmart, some of y'all already know what I'm about to say. When it's recessionary time, Walmart stock price goes up because all of a sudden everybody's on a budget, baby, right? And then, maybe your mid-luxury goods, the people who sometimes have it, but sometimes don't, those go down, right? This impacts all of us. So the names you shop with today are the very stocks that you can buy, right? And think about those swings. Racine, do you have anything else you'd like to add about kind of making sure that your portfolio is recession proof?
Yeah, Felicia hit the nail on the head. And, I always make sure when I'm talking to my clients, especially for those who've never invested before, and I teach them a couple of rules, but one of the things I always have them to make sure they have 3 separate accounts anyway. First, they should have their emergency fund. Typically, if it's a year or less of needs, 6 to 8 months of their salary. I also have the second account. I call it lifestyle fund. Okay. This is your fund. It's still, short term, maybe less than 3 years. That's, going on trips, fixing the car, buying your car, weddings. Those are, that lifestyle fund. And then you have your wealth building funds as your third core, because that's the long term. That's your retirement. That's the education funding for the kids. So I really make sure that, hey, as a basis to have those 3 accounts set up, specifically. Because at least it'll provide a buffer, regardless of whether it's a recession or whether it's a booming, time of, the market. So at least they'll get to have an opportunity to, participate in all those areas at the same time. So, right along with what Felicia was saying. Exactly.
So let me do you mind if I add something to this, Casey?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So I love the fact that she's got the 3 different ways that you would manage your funds. I use a similar thing. Definitely want to have the emergency fund. I also talk about having a tax deferred bucket, which is kind of your retirement bucket. You want to have monies in your retirement bucket. And then I also talk about tax-free bucket, which is something that a lot of people don't think about, and they don't have any of their money or very little of their money in the tax-free bucket. So I always talk about, you want to have buckets to pull from. You want to have pockets to pull from. So if the market is down, you don't want to have to only be able to go into the one bucket that is going to charge you lots of taxes, penalties, any of those sorts of things. You want to have some other pockets to pull from. And so what Racine had to say is exactly in alignment with what I would say. We would just have different ways of saying the same thing.
You're my backup, sis.
Absolutely. We're backing each other up.
Good deal.
And that's good. And that's important, right? Because I wanna say too, because we have a mixed bag in the room right now, right? Some folks work for corporates, right? Where they actually have a 401k. And so this retirement thought process is kind of outline for you, right? Whereas some of us who are fully on the entrepreneurial side, you have to figure it out. Is it Roth IRA, right? Is it some of these, whole life insurance policies, right? So make sure, I love the diversification of even the way we articulate this. Make sure that whatever this means for you, right? And what you are privy to, or what your network even might be privy to, that you translate this into what's meaningful for you, right? And whatever the lowest hanging fruit is, start somewhere. Thank you both for articulating those. And I would say too, as entrepreneurs, right? Because especially if you are waiting until one time per year to pay your taxes instead of quarterly, right? It does not hurt, baby. It does not hurt to have an account, right, with your financial institutions where you're fluidly just sweeping in what might be 21%. You could do 30% of your revenue, so that by the time tax times come, you're not pulling from your emergency fund or your retirement fund, right? Or your lifestyle fund. You actually have some cash earmarked, and if it's more than enough, beautiful, right? But you can slice this any type of way. And that brings me to my next question, Racine and Felicia. We kind of alluded to the fact that recessions do come, right? And they will happen episodically. It's not that people do anything wrong. It's almost, human nature and nature, resetting itself. So what are the specific things that we should know to do to kind of prepare ourselves for recessions? And just in case people are kind of fuzzy on what a recession is, because that's fine, sis, that's why we're here, right? If you think about the 2008 crisis, right? 2008, and all of a sudden we see something called the mortgage crisis happening, right? That was a time where you saw people getting laid off from jobs, right? Which was a result of businesses having less money, right, to cover their expenses, which was a result of people having less dollars to spend with businesses, right? Like, these are the times where you just see this overstated occurrence of cash being strapped for a whole lot of people, right? And so the market, our human behavior, we change, we react differently. So knowing that recessions will happen, right? Likely every decade that we live in, right? What are some of the things, even if it's kind of taking what you've already stated a step further, but as we see the writings on the wall, which all of us should see today, right? You have, Meta laying folks off, you got McDonald's laying folks off, something's going on. What are the things that we should be doing in these types of situations to prepare ourselves to make it on the other side pretty unscathed? Racine, I'll start with you.
I always tell people to first, they need to stop and breathe. Take in a breath. Because, I talked a little bit about money trauma, financial trauma, how we attack or mentally think about finances and money. So in and of itself, that compounds everything in many ways, speaking from personal experience. And so I tell you to breathe first, okay? And then I also tell you, hey, you can't expect what you don't inspect, okay? That's second. Third, preparation. So, for example, I'm gonna speak from personal experience, okay? COVID hit everybody crazy. To me, that was the practice time, okay? And that was literally, making sure you had your emergency fund. But there were some simple things that I had to do. I realized that, hey, I couldn't go out and eat every day, I couldn't actually, spend money, especially now it's graduation season, wedding season, and everybody's inviting you to those functions and you're spending out all of this money. Well, you got to regroup. So that means you may have to have a budget. And I hate the word budget, but it is a relative, term. So it just says, I just need to reset exactly and make sure that I don't overstate my income and give it away. That's what a budget really is to me. And so I make sure that, hey, I put aside, hey, I'm only going to spend $30, $40, $50 a month for gifts. Okay. And I put that aside, literally. I know that I'll have, a set amount that I want to spend. Now I'm a foodie, so I love going out to eat. Okay. And so that doesn't mean I'm telling you, you can't go out and eat. It just means that, hey, you got to be strategic, can't go every week. It makes sense. And so and most important, I know these are substantive things. I tell people to put the oxygen mask on themselves first, because you'll find out that everybody's literally trying to help everybody else. They're giving their grandbabies money and not even thinking about themselves, especially retirees, that's what, when we're talking about the lifestyle fund, literally that's what happens. They're not accounting for the fact that they're going to take their kids to Disney World and not thinking what's going to happen, in December, when, hey, they may be laid off or whatever. So those are some functional things. At the worst case, if you're laid off or furloughed, you might have to get a plan B of income. COVID was a really groundbreaking time when people started businesses. Who would have thought, that they would think of even doing a business? So those are some things that I know outside of putting your financial plan in place, and doing your financial house, starting with making sure you had your income protection, then paying off your, first have an emergency fund, then paying off your debt, then starting saving for retirement education, and then literally having the size of it, kind of cemented to make sure that you're doing some things. Felicia talked about estate planning. Oh my God, we won't get into that. That's a whole nother, instructions in case you do not come home. Okay, we haven't talked about that. And I'm speaking for individuals who are families. Also, I'm speaking for those who are business owners and entrepreneurs. The same rules apply, okay? The same foundational things apply. You got to do kind of dual things if you are self-employed. One for your family and set up one for your business.
So good. Again, you're making it plain. And if this is edifying, if anybody that's listening, drop a 1 in the chat right now. You are not alone. I am one person who is just in love with this. It's the low-hanging fruit for me. Felicia, what would you add to that in terms of preparing, right, for recessions that we know are just going to come?
So what I've just come to realize is that I have a sister from another mother over in Atlanta. Over there, she keeps talking about what I would be talking about. So I mean, I would just kind of piggyback on what she said, but I'm gonna just kind of break it out and just talk about the investment piece to it, which is also something that you understand. And there's really two things that I want you to realize on the investment side of the equation, because oftentimes that's how we foster and grow our businesses, by investing back into it. So there is an emotional side to being an investor. And there's actually a science to being for handling the emotions. So Racine and I could probably have a conversation about how we have put together the best plan that we know how to offer. And then the client starts thinking about whatever, or somebody is in their ear talking to them about whatever, and their emotions get into it, and then they go in a completely different way. So there's the whole emotions part of it. And we've got an academic board of directors that includes David Eagleman, who does The Brain on Netflix. And so we've got people who are savvy and knowledgeable about the science of human behavior and its impact on investing. And then we also have the academic side of it. We've got Markowitz, who won the Nobel Prize for his theories, and we include the science of it. So it's the combination of those two things that are really important in order for you to get to the long-term investment results that you're looking for. So I would say that those are the two things that I would double tap that supports what Racine just had to say.
Love that. Thank you so much, Felicia. Thank you both. And speaking directly to entrepreneurs, I want to give you the game on what happens inside of ivory towers for multi-billion-dollar deals, right? So back when I was a banker, right, I was structuring multi-billion-dollar loans for tech companies who would come and say, Casey, I want, literally, they could be cash burn. Uber is one of them, right? I want $3 billion, a line of credit to pull on. And my response to them was always, okay, show me your projections in a stress case scenario. Because I wanted to see, without me telling them what I wanted to see, I wanted to see how they were going to behave, what their forecast showed in their decision-making if things hit the fan, right? If a recession happened, if all of a sudden something happened, let's use Airbnb for an example. If something happens where people can't stay in these houses, you think they're just gonna, gobble up. specifically with this Airbnb example, their response was, I think it was about $10 billion that they wanted, right? Their response was, I mean, come on, look at us, right? Like hotels are going out of style. Like there's no way that something can happen where people won't have an appetite. If anything, we're gonna keep growing. I still needed the stress test situation, right? Because I needed to see, much like I'm telling you, that management knew how to navigate these environments, right? In a way that allowed them to stay afloat. Long story short, Airbnb stress case projections, they gave me a 5-year projection period, and it actually showed that they were going to cut their marketing budget in half. Smart, love that, love to see that, because that saves cash flow and keeps it inside of the company. They were going to lay off about 20% of their workforce. Hate to say it, but love that. Like you got to keep the, you know, these aspirational folks who are innovating, you got to pull it back. And their stress case showed they could still pay us our money back in a recession, right? They got the money. Now, 2020 came. Guess what happened? Shelter-in-place orders rocked the entire world, and Airbnb had to do something about it. They actually took their marketing budget to zero during this period. And in the summer of 2020, they were the only tech company in Silicon Valley that reported a profit.
Wow. Wow.
Powerful stuff. Because when you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And so something I would tell all of you listening on the business side, keep the personal intact, baby, because you got to put the gas mask on yourself first, right? Just like Racine said. But on the business side, think today about the levers you can pull, founder, the levers you can pull, CEO, to keep your company afloat. Because there are things in your business that you're paying for today that you could probably use an AI tool if you had to. Write that down so you know, so you're not panicking, right? Because emotions can actually be calmed when you actually are just going by the playbook. If you know you can let certain people go, if you know you can take your marketing budget down, if you know that you can go in the garage and let go of the office space you've been renting for a year, right? But love this, and I know it's a lot to chew on, but all of these things matter, and just, you know, start somewhere. So Felicia talked about the science of this thing, the science of investing, Racine, that makes me think about what you talk about sometimes, which is the rules of money, right? Can you unpack for us what those are? What are the rules of money?
Gotcha. I recently did a workshop for some women. They were millennials. And so millennials, you know, great income earners, you know, and their dynamics are different from what their parents are, et cetera. So I always just, again, keeping it simple and straight, you know, so it can be chewed, okay? And so I talked to them about the dime piece theory, okay? You know, and some of them aren't having families just yet, but I talk about, as a foundation, make sure you have income protection or life insurance in place. And I calculate how much they should have using the dime theory, and dime is the acronym: debt payoff, you know, income protection, M for mortgage, E for education for kids, if you have them. And so I calculate for that. I also teach them, which I know, you know, Felicia understands and she knows, and she teaches her clients the rule of 72. Albert Einstein wasn't crazy. He came up with the banking rule and the theory of, hey, determining how much your interest rate should be divided into 72 will tell you how quickly your money will double. You know, that's really helpful. So when you're planning your retirement number, whatever that number is that you need to have set aside for retirement, we calculate that between us as financial planners for our clients, because you just can't just throw a dart and figure, hey, I'm going to retire at 60 and I think I'm gonna need this amount. It's not a I think, it's a, you gotta calculate it. So we actually calculate that number for you based on your lifestyle, based on your income now, and we factor inflation into it of what that 30,000 to today's dollars would be by the time you're 60. And sometimes it's about $70,000 a year or $100,000. Just remember, a bag of potato chips, you know, when we were 10 years old was what, probably 75 cents. And what is it now? Probably $1.50. Oh, crazy. Gas, we won't talk about gas. That's a great example. Okay.
No. I live in California. You don't want to talk about gas.
Okay. So all of those things. And so when I talk about, you know, everybody hates the budget word, but I just have a lot, you know, a principle of, you know, 70-30. 30% of your income and what you bring home 10% is for charity and tithing, you know, or give of your time. Okay, if you can't give the money. 10% is for putting away for investing and saving. And the other 10% of that 30 is wealth building, retirement, etc., education fund. Okay. The other 70, it doesn't say you can go spend wildly. It just says be mindful of where your fixed expenses are, which is, you know, having your light bill, gas bill, food, entertainment, making sure those things are, you know, evaluated for sure. And so some people may say Racine 70-30 is, you know, a lot, 30% of my income being saved. Okay, well, start off small, do 80-20, okay? And then graduate into the 70-30. Sometimes it's based on age. I might do the 80-20, okay? Because, you know, some people need more income in their lifestyle. So, but otherwise, those are great foundational things as a start. And then most importantly, people say, well, I get a financial plan. Get somebody who can put a plan in place. Okay.
Testify, girlfriend.
You know, I'm very passionate about this stuff. I get crazy, you know. People say, Racine, I can't afford one. You can't afford not to. Okay. We can do everything else. You go to a doctor, you go to a dentist, you go what? Think about all the things of find your core of your, I call it your Fab Five list, okay? A mental health therapist, an accountant, a financial planner, a doctor, and, you know, and then a good friend that you can bounce things out that have a like mindset, okay? Pick your Fab Five, but make sure of that one of those people in that Fab Five is your financial planner, okay? Make it cute and sexy. I got a financial planner, okay? A money manager. Be cute. People like it's sexy. It's sexy. Okay. It's sexy. Okay. We may have book and theory and structure when we're talking to you, but it's sexy. Okay. It's sexy. So I hope that helps. I really do.
And is what's not sexy about finance? Come on now. Come on now. Come on now.
Hey.
Love that, Racine. And I love the practical rules of thumbs that people can remember, right? They can remember 70-30, right? They can remember what's inside of the 30% slice of the three ways, etc. Thank you. So the DIME acronym, like those are just easy to live rent free in my head. Felicia, are there any rules of thumb that you give your clients that we haven't touched on yet?
Well, I would say again, you know, Racine just kind of sparked stuff in me. And one of the things that I remember about myself when I was getting started, and I've had those conversations with clients where they're talking about, I can't do whatever. I tell people that when I first got started saving, I started with $5 a month. And my friends and my family were like, $5 a month. What was the point of $5 a month? But what I was trying to do is I was trying to get into the discipline of doing something for myself. And what I could afford was $5 a month. So when you sit down with a person like my Racine and I, we're not trying, we have a goal of where we're trying to get you to, but we will take you wherever you are. And so I think that that's an important thing. And then so that was one of the things that just kind of came to mind when Racine was talking. I love her rules of thumb. I think that, again, going back to investing in general, there's 3 rules of thumb that I would have you consider and add to what Racine had to say, which is do not track record invest, which is looking at the track record of what somebody has done in the past and following that, because the reality is the statistics will tell you that there is, and you see it on the disclosures that they put on all of the investment, is what happened in the past is no guarantee of what's going to happen in the future. So do not track record invest. Do not stock pick, because the reality is nobody knows what a particular stock is going to do. Everything that is already knowable about that stock is already built into the stock, the price of the stock, and there's nobody who can tell you without lying that they know what a stock is going to do. So everything is already built into the stock. And then the last thing is I would really just have you don't try and time the market. So if you, I looked at a study before I jumped on the line with you guys today. So I was looking at a study that was a 20-year study that was over 5,000 different days in that study over 20 years. And if you were put in $10,000 at the beginning of the study and you went 20 years in the future, your $10,000 had gone up by a factor of 5 to over $50,000. But if you happen to be out of the market on 5 of those days, the returns that you got would drop by about 40%. If you happen to be out of the market by 10 of those days, and I'm talking 10 days over a 20-year period of time, your returns would have dropped by over 50%. And if you had basically missed the top 30 days out of a 30-year period of time, your returns would have been basically flat over that time frame. So that would really be the thing that I would have you do, is do not market time, because the reality is you won't know what you missed if you got out of the market, and you will never experience the highs that the market delivers. So that's what I would add to what Racine had to say in terms of investing.
Thank you, Felicia. Oh, go ahead, Racine.
Thank you, Felicia, right on the money. And I'm gonna even top off what you said. People expect for it to be done overnight.
Right.
They're wanting quick results.
Right.
Yes, they do.
So yeah, quick results, and it's not quick. It's not overnight. You know.
That's right. And we're in a vein. I actually want to stay here because people, as we all know, they can be very reactionary, right? On either side, right? People can see something being hot and they want to gamble with some money that should not be gambled with, right? They want to over speculate. And I want us to really make it plain here, right? Like, I want us to really unpack the behaviors that we should lean into, right? And the ones that we should avoid, right? Because even gambling and speculating, that can sound kind of foo-foo in the air, and folks might not know that they're actually doing that, right, in their day-to-day behaviors. Felicia, I'll kick it over to you. Can you frame for us what we're talking about when we say, like, don't speculate, don't gamble, right? Like, be well disciplined. Like, what does that mean, right? And then what are the behaviors that we should be doing, right? So that everybody that is listening right now gets it and they can exercise it.
Well, I think first and foremost, we need to just acknowledge that people are irrational and irrational, and they often are influences by things that they don't really recognize that they're influenced by. So if we think about what's happening in the world, you will see magazine articles, headlines that are saying that, hey, the sky is crashing, and so you take a particular behavior based on your belief that the sky is crashing, or you're excited about a stock. I see that all the time with my technology folks out in Silicon Valley. They're excited about the company that they're working for, and so they put a ton of their money into that particular stock, and they're excited about what is possible from that. So really, it's the emotions that drive their behaviors, and their emotions really can get in the way of their long-term results. So in terms of, if you were looking at just, there's a company called Dalbar that studies the behavior of people, investors. And so one of the Dalbar studies that I saw recently was saying that the S&P over a 20-year period of time returned a 10.65 rate of return. Individual investors got a 7.13% rate of return, which is about 3.5% less. So what's the difference between what would have happened if you bought the S&P and what individual investors did? Well, it's because they're doing the wrong things. They're coming in and out of the market at the wrong time. They're letting their emotions drive how they're doing it. It turns out that they end up being in the market on average 4.65 years. So every 4.65 years, they're changing the way that they're doing things. So they're not being disciplined, they're not being diligent, they're not being prudent. And those are all the things that you need to be a good long-term investors. So you don't want to speculate and gamble. You don't want to guess where you think the market is going. That's relying on your feelings, and that will get you into trouble every single time. There's a thing that I say is what you want to do is you want to think long term. And what I say about that is if you were getting on a plane and you were going from California to Atlanta, where Racine is, you don't want to jump out of the plane before you get there. You want to get to where Racine is in Atlanta. You do not do that. And as investors, a lot of people don't follow what they set up, and they get out of the plane before they get the results that would have been delivered if they had stayed in the plane. So that's really the last thing that I would have you think about.
Beating the recession, and it's as simple as riding it out, waiting. I love that. Racine, anything you want to add onto that?
No, I think Felicia hit the nail on the head for that. Just perfect. Stay the course. Just stay the course. Stay the course.
Ashe. And so we've been talking a good bit about the stock market, right? Obviously, there are different buckets. You have savings accounts, obviously, you can have retirement accounts, right? But these stock market accounts, brokerage accounts, right? Write that word down. This is where you have more autonomy. It's not necessarily penalties, right? It's kind of on you. If you come out of the market like Felicia's talking about, like that's on you. If you get back in, that's on you. I want to double click on that piece a bit, just in case some folks are inspired or already in the market, right? And want to do something a little differently than holding all of their savings in, a 0.01% interest bearing savings account in commercial banks today. So Felicia, you said earlier something about, the price is already baked in. Right? Like the value is already there. Like what you see is already incorporating all these factors. And what you're talking about, right, is the fact that some people kind of squint at stuff and like, oh, they don't know. It's about to, it's about to move, right? Just in a primer way so that anybody can understand this. One, what do you mean when you say that the price is already baked in, right? And then number two, are there ever times where some folks might see are there ever exceptions to the rule, right? Like, are there ever times where some folks might be able to see something that the stock market is not picking up there? Just kind of hitting both of those sides.
So that's a great question. And I'd say that there's really two views of investing out there in the world. There's the one view of investing, which is that markets are efficient. And there are people out there who know something that the rest of us don't know, that they'll be able to leverage so that they can go ahead and take advantage of the mispricing in the market, and they can make a difference. So that's kind of one view of the world, that the market is efficient. Now, the statistics, and I'm a numbers girl. So me and Racine are numbers girls. So we always look at the numbers. So what the statistics will tell us is that view of the world is not supported by the numbers. So I have a different view of the world, and my view of the world is supported by Nobel Prize winning theory, which is the markets are efficient. And if you believe that the markets are efficient, you believe that everything that is knowable about a stock is already baked into the market. And the only thing that will change that is something that is unknowable. So I'm from California. So PG&E was a very solid stock. And then they had these fires and they got in trouble for starting the fires. And so that took the value of the PG&E stock from up here to down here. And a lot of people lost their wealth. And so that was completely unknowable. And you couldn't have said that there was going to be these fires that PG&E was going to get held liable for, that was going to tank the stock. So that was completely unknowable. So I believe that everything that is knowable is already baked into the price. And the way that you avoid the the downturns in the market is you believe that and hold and do the things that are consistent with that particular worldview. So again, there's two different worldviews, and the actions that you take are consistent with that. So if you believe that there is something that is there is somebody out there who can know something that you don't know. First and foremost, if they knew something that you didn't know, then they could be liable for insider trading. But that's another conversation. But on the other hand, your actions are really consistent with that. So you would be stock picking, you would be market timing, you'd be track record investing in that world. Whereas the other world is really about the science and academics. And I'm a big proponent of the science and academics over the other world that you could potentially exist inside.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bifurcating the two and making it very simple, right? Those who believe that the market is inefficient and you can game it at the right time. Those who believe that the market is efficient and like we all know the same thing. Here we are, like let's just behave the way that the data is telling us to. This, and I think it's a ring a bell for some folks, right? When I was in corporate, and we would be issued stock. Even if we actually weren't issued stock on the banking side, they would want to track every stock move that we made, right? Purchases, sales, etc. And it's because we had access to insider information. What do you mean, Casey? We knew which companies were about to buy other companies months before the rest of the world knew. And so what could we do? We could actually buy that stock, right? 2 months before anybody knew that they were about to double in size from acquiring somebody. And as the stock price rose, we would make that money, right? Because we could act on inefficiency, right? We knew something that most people in the world did not know. And literally when we would do these deals, they were safeguarded. Only 5 people, we would call it deal names like Project Platinum, Project Zebra, so nobody knew. Now, the way the bank and many of your companies, especially if you're receiving stock, circumvents that is they say there are these blackout periods, right? Like there are certain times where, especially when they know something is going on, you can't trade, you can't move it, right? Which goes back to what Felicia is talking about, like ensuring market efficiency, right? And so I'm saying this so that some of you who are either just investing today or have a side gig with your entrepreneurship journey and you are inside of a company, right? So that you understand these dynamics that are just rules in your head. So you understand why these things happen. You understand why CEOs who do this big merger go to jail sometimes because they literally game some stuff before the rest of the world knows. You understand why a lot of politicians, when they know some bad stuff is about to happen and they sell off the stock real fast before they make their announcement to the public so that their portfolios don't shrink. This is why they're going to jail, right? And so the more we understand how folks are moving in the world around us, the more empowered we are to show up and make good decisions and to safeguard our own companies, right? Very insightful, Felicia. I appreciate you sharing that. And believe it or not, y'all, we really winding down on time. I feel like this has flown by. So the best thing I can do, y'all, for us all is just to have it be open floor for both Racine and Felicia. Like, ladies, if there is anything that you would leave us with, and you can take your time with this, okay? If there's anything that you can leave us with that you see as pertinent, right? Your top 1 or top 2 tips, right? Around making sure that as many Black women as possible make it to the other side of this recessionary environment unscathed, right? Please leave us with those gems. And again, you can take your time with this, but pour on us, right? So that we can do the things that we need to do with strategy. I believe that success is strategic, not accidental. I just believe that. And so I think we can all glean a lot from your closing words around your biggest tips for us in this recessionary climate. Either of you can start.
Go ahead, Racine.
Okay, good. Wow. I got not a mouthful, but just again, putting the oxygen mask on yourselves. Okay. That's first and foremost. The second, your Fab 5 list, your circle with, and I'm saying this for you as an individual and as entrepreneurs, okay? and then putting a written plan in place. Yeah, it may deviate from it. You may tweak it, but stay the course. Okay. And Felicia hit the nail on the head when she was talking about people jump in the market and jump out because they're hearing what's going on in the news. You know, hey, you can't do that. You got to stay the course. Yeah, again, tweak it. And then just one even impactful thing is, you know, we talked about the finance, but also the tax people, we aren't talking about it. You know, we aren't really looking at what we're doing through the year, our withholdings, you know, making sure we're efficient on our taxes, paying for taxes, especially for entrepreneurs, you said, setting aside for, you know, our income tax bill. And then literally by April 15th, everybody's trying to fix something that happened 365 days ago. And, you know, we can't squeeze blood out of a turnip, as my mom would say. Okay. And most important, getting your estate in order. Okay. Giving instructions, let it be the last love letter to your family of what needs to be taken care of if you don't show up tomorrow. Yeah, we're talking about making sure we have money to live off of, but we're not talking about, hey, if we don't show up, what happens in that respect as well. So those are some core things I believe.
So sobering. I'm gonna let some silence rest on y'all because I know y'all are saying some woo after that, but that's like big sis talking, you know. Let that sink in, write it down, make some action plans. Love that. Felicia, what about you? And again, you can take your time with it. We are all ears. What are the final tips you would leave us with?
Well, I'm gonna add to what Racine said, and I would say that really the thing that will make the biggest difference for you is to stay disciplined and to work with a coach. So Racine talked about having the Fab Five and one of them being a financial advisor. I want to double click on that because what a financial advisor who is a coach can do for you is they can keep you in the game so that you long enough to win. I was watching a video of Michael Phelps talking about the success that he's had over his career. And he talks about the fact that he would have never been able to do what he's been able to do without a coach, because the coach will take you from where you are to where you want to go. They're going to see he talked about the fact that his coach saw every stroke he ever made in the pool and could make the appropriate adjustments and could tell him the appropriate adjustments that he needed to do in order to get to the level of success that you have. So definitely what I would have you consider and be my final takeaway is get a coach on your team that has a worldview that's in alignment with your worldview and can take you from where you are to where you want to be. And that's the benefit of working with a person like Racine or I, and because we will see what you don't see, and we will make tweaks along the way that will get you to the goal that you want. So the thing that I think is important is the people who are coming to this conference and listening to what we have to say are up to something. They have a purpose. They have something that they decided to bet on themselves, and they want to get the results that come from betting for themselves. So work with somebody. This is not one of I tell the story about my daughter who when she was 2 used to say, I do it myself. This is not one of those things that you want to do yourself. This is something you want to do in partnership with other people. So get your 5-5, include somebody like Racine and I on your team, and get the coaching that you need to get to the result that you want, because you guys are up to big things and we can't wait to see it.
So good. Safe spaces over everything. It should feel like home, just like this. And we have 2 women that have poured into us and they have made it feel like home, which is miraculous for people in our shoes, man, right? We remember how on the first of the month it was tight in the house. We didn't understand why. They didn't talk to us about money, but we knew it was tight, right? This is how we would heal our relationships with money, right? And so Racine and Felicia, I want you to tell us all of the ways in which we can go ahead and get on your calendar and on your newsletter and up in your face because we need it. We need it. Racine, what are the handles, websites, etc. that everyone should know about to find you?
All right. You can find me at www.racine.reichard.com, and Instagram is Racine_Reichard, and Facebook group is Dream Team for Facebook. Reichard Dream Team, I'm sorry, on Facebook. So definitely, and definitely hit us up. We're 800, we're in multiple states, so it's not too many places that we're not certified. So wherever you are, we can take care of you as well.
Amazing. Over to you, Felicia. Where can we find you?
So I am everywhere at Felicia Gopal. Gopal is spelled G-O-P-A-U-L. Felicia Gopal. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, everywhere at Felicia Gopal. But what I'd also like to invite your people to do is use my URL, chatwithfelicia.com/blaze. And I have got, and I'm willing and open to talking with anybody who reaches out to me through that medium.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'm going to give y'all a chance to go ahead and hit the emojis, hit the, I see it. I see them floating. Okay. Hit the hearts, hit the claps, hit the confetti. Ladies, I have to give you your flowers. People talk about Warren Buffett, but all I see is you. They talk about Donald Trump, but I'm getting teary. All I see is you. You have brilliantly and lovingly navigated us through some of the most difficult conversations of our lifetime. We're disenfranchised. They've made sure that not many of us understand how to articulate these words. And here you are pouring into us so generously. And I thank you for that. I've given y'all some time to give y'all love in the chat and emojis on the screen too. I honor you both, and I wish you so much success in the journey ahead. We stand on your shoulders today, for sure. So thank you so much.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much fun.
All right,
And
y'all.
Racine, say hi to Mom.
Okay, I will.
Sisters. Love it. All right, y'all. Enjoy the rest of this day. We're at day 5. It is almost over. And right now we are kicking it straight to the Blaze Business Awards, where 10 business owners across 10 different categories are going to be knighted with the best in business for 2023. Y'all show up and definitely keep the energy high. Love and light.
Bye-bye.
All right, y'all. That's it. That is all of the learning for the Blaze Virtual Summit Summer 2023. History once again was made because it ain't never ever felt like this, and it feels so good. I could not have fathomed a better ending. Learning is over. Okay, this is officially done, and we supposed to go on to the Blaze Business Awards, okay? But I just need y'all to give so much love to Racine and Felicia. Just real quick, we do not have time to do no Q&A now, okay? We don't now. But just give them some love real quick. Let them see it. Let them feel it, because I mean that people keep telling us about these people that don't look like us, but all I see are these 2 women. That's what it looks like, baby. That's the best of the best of the best right there. That's what it looks like. Like that is what it looks like. And so if you have ever been afraid, as most of us have been, reach out to them, DM them, get on their calendars, have the consultation, let them hold your hand, cry about all the things that you are fearful of, and let them rock you until it feels better. Because they will. One of the best leaders I have ever come across, his name is Dr. George Fraser. He said, give until it hurts, and then give some more until it feels better. And that is the personification. These 2 women are the personification of that. Okay. So yeah, get on their calendars, man. Like this the last session. Ain't no more learning for this right here after this. Ain't no more learning for this right here after this. And you got 2 women. There are very few. We can count them on 2 hands who know how to do what they do. But we got them right here. Okay. So get on their calendars. They need to be on speed dial. I mean that. Thank y'all so much for talking so colorfully about beating the recession. It didn't even seem scary, y'all. We are officially done with the learning segment. There are a whole lot of contestants who are waiting for us in the official awards announcement segment. So meet me over there, okay? No more learning now, so you can put up your pen and paper. I hope you got what you needed. This is history. I got goosebumps. This is history. We did the damn thing, y'all. This is us right here. We did the damn thing. I will meet y'all on the other side. The 2023 Blaze Business Awards are announced. We have people who are going to give acceptance speeches. We'll tell you more about that on the other side. And right after that, I am doing the closing speech that is called Bend But Don't Break. And it's over. Okay, so get your mind right. I'll see y'all on the other side. Love y'all so much. And I mean it. Peace.